In today's episode, I'll be giving my review, reaction, and recap to the second season in Apple TV's Severance, which released in 2025. Let's dive right into Severance. Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the Dub Cast. With Severance, I think I chose the actual worst time to watch it, as now I have to wait 2 years, just like everybody else, but I wasn't watching with everybody else, so caught season 2 about a month or so after it ended. Nonetheless, another solid season. I think this season overall has higher highs than season 1 has, but the overall ending left me wanting a little bit more. You know, not to, well, I'm going to dive into spoilers throughout this podcast. If you haven't seen Severance season 2, then maybe I'd X out the video now. But dude, I hate like when this stuff ends on a cliffhanger. You know, obviously they're going to make season 3. It's one of the most popular shows in television, but we're going to be watching that in 2027, bro. You're going to be 2 years older. You're still going to be living with your parents. You're still going to be, hanging with the old friends from home. You're still going to be going out to get beers. I don't know, I'm just saying bullshit. But like, it's annoying when we're like, now I know what the people from season 1 felt like because they were left on a cliffhanger too. I just got to go right to season 2 and jump right in. I mean, the ending too, I felt like I didn't like the ending personally. I mean, not to mention that it's a cliffhanger. I get that, whatever, you got to drop intrigue for season 3, even though everyone's going to watch season 3 regardless. I didn't like the way this show ended. This season, it was like we fought all the way for this one objective, and now we're just going to abandon that objective. I get it, if he does follow through with the objective, he's going to die, and there's a whole like moral back and forth of that. But in that episode, I mean, we'll get to an episode 10, but he was literally wanted to do that. Like, we'll get into more in episode 10, but, I mean, this season's pretty good. There's one standout episode that I think was pretty bad. I know everyone talked about that one bad episode, but like, most of the episodes are pretty good, and there's some great episodes, and there's one really, could have been an email episode, which I don't know why they felt the need to include that, especially at the spot that they included that at. Thought that was an interesting choice, but I don't know, man. I mean, Severance season 2, I gotta be honest, I'm taking season 1 over it. I thought season 1 we were building towards something. We actually get there, at least for a couple minutes. I mean, they were outside of their bodies for 45 minutes. That was fun, that was new, that was interesting. This season it does have interesting stuff, but then, it just leads to more question marks. And one of my good friends said this about the show. He said he thinks that this show could just be leading to more and more question marks, and I hope they don't get lost down this track. Like, I've seen Hank from Pardon My Take. He said that there's going to be a throwback season. I don't think that's in the works, but first of all, you got to end the show at season 4. I think 4 seasons of this show is enough. We've already kind of drummed up the concepts of everything. It's like, I don't know where you go from this. If they make a season 5 of the show, it's cooked and it's a money grab. I hate to say it. I mean, most good shows are, Breaking Bad's 5 seasons. Sopranos is 6. With Sopranos, they had more and more stuff to go off of, in like a simple way, not a freaking Severance or Lost where you're like drawing over whatever. Wire, 5 seasons. Mr. Robot, 4 seasons. Like, I'm thinking of all these good shows. They end at like, if this goes to a season 5, consider the show cooked. Even though I'll probably still be podcasting about it. Mark's development is good. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff they do. Let's just dive right in. So, starting off with episode 1, we return to Severance in the office with episode 1 titled "Hello, Miss Cobel." So, Mark, of course, his innie self has been ended for the moment being when he's snapped back to reality when they pull the kill switch when Dylan is losing his balance and Milchek finally gets into the room. And so Mark wakes up again, and he's back in the office. And now no time has passed for his any version of himself. So what does he do? He runs right into that wellness room. His wife is alive. That's what he's been told, or that's what he knows from Miss Casey, and then being on the outside, talking to his sister, talking to Rickon. His Gemma is dead in the outside world, but she's still alive. So when he's back on the innie version, he's like, oh shit, I gotta figure out what happened here. Runs right to wellness. Of course, the room has been taken apart and there's nothing left. And so he's kind of frazzled, a little bit lost. Where's he gonna go? Walks into MDR, microdata refinement. I mean, now we know what they've been working on this whole time. It's like, oh, what was even, I mean, the work we do is mysterious and important. That's how I describe my job also. So, of course, due to Miss Cobel's blow up in season 1, Milchick is now the manager of the floor, which I think I like Milchick as a manager better than Miss Cobel. Miss Cobel is like never in the fucking office. She's out stalking Mark and being weird around his family and stuff. We never really got that answer. Why is she so interested in him? I guess that's like a season 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 question. Sorry, I know there's a lot of people out there who really love the show, and I do like the show. I'm not ready to call it like a Mount Rushmore show. I'm not ready to put it on the like top 5. It's not even top 10 for me yet, but I do like the show, so I'm interested to see where it goes. So I got to stop being negative. I know there's Severance people out there. I know there's fans out there. Let's see what happens. So Milchick's the manager now. Love it. Milchick, I think, was great this season as kind of the antagonist / like follow the rules guy, but also like was complex and had his own interesting scenes, not just simply there to like be the rules guy. There's more to him. So I like Milchick's character. So Cobel, we learned, tried for a quote unquote throuple with both Marks, and she's the one being blamed for the mishap with all of them having their indie versions out in the real world. Both like any Mark I get. He seems like a fun guy, hangs out, whatever, smiles, makes jokes. Him and Petey were really good friends. Audi Mark is miserable, bro. And there's some episodes where I have Mark as my least favorite. I mean, he was in the glumps and, being grumpy, and I don't know. I guess when you really see the true essence of somebody, when you see both versions of them, she falls in love, which I think this story was also kind of cap. I don't know. We had never really got clarity on that. So in MDR, Mark has 3 new colleagues instead of his old team. So Dylan, Helly, and Irving are nowhere to be found, and also a new deputy manager who is a child, Miss Wong. Now, Miss Wong has an interesting arc throughout the season. I'm interested to see if we ever see what comes of her character, because I don't really know what that was about. These 3 colleagues, they're funny. They're from different branches, and they also do MDR, but they're not as good as the OG team because Mark was in with that team for a while. That was his whole life up to this point, he was being with them, and Helly was new, but he was in love with her. So the 3 new colleagues, there's one old guy who's kind of funny, but besides that, Mark W, I mean, they're not really, nothing to gravel on about. So Mark is still stuck in his rebellious ways. Obviously just came back from causing the biggest indie rebellion of all time. He tries passing a note to Mark W saying that he hates the office, and then Milchick gets it right away, and the guy snitches on him like, these are not his friends. These are not people that he can trust. So Mark, once Milchick is kind of on his ass, runs away, and he makes a speech to the board about seeing his team again. He needs Irving, Dylan, and Helly back in order to do the work he wants to do. Milchick catches him, unplugs it. Obviously, this is another thing gone wrong, and, what I said about Miss Cobel, I didn't like her. See, she wasn't there in the office, but Milchick is also just a huge fumbler. Like the dude cannot manage an office either. I don't know. Does Milchick manage like multiple people? Because if he just has to watch MDR, then it's like he is horrible at his job. I mean, seriously, I don't know. Well, he does have to watch the visual people. I forget what their name is. Don't kill me. It's ODR. He has to watch ODR. I hope that's what it's called. But I don't know. It seems like he's not really doing a great job managing his employees because people are just going rogue all the time. I mean, you had Helly's suicide attempts in season 1. Mark's now making a speech to the board when like Miss Cobel couldn't even get the board on the phone. I don't know. So after Mark's plea to the board, this should be a key to everyone. Now that he said this, guess who comes back? Dylan, Irving, and Helly all back to the office. Irving's distraught, and we don't ever really find out what Irving's thing was that happened with Bert when he was in the Audi version. I mean, we kind of get the gist of it, but I don't think we saw it. So yeah, Irving's distraught because he just came right from there. Helly's kind of like frazzled. Well, Helly's chill, which is our first clue into that whole scenario. And then Dylan obviously was removed. He was in his innie self when he got removed by Milchek from the control room. So everyone's kind of in a different state of mind. They need to get them all back together. They show them a video which includes all of their escape attempts, and it's being kind of applauded, and they're going to put in more things to make it better. The video also shows Mark and Helly kissing, and they have until the end of the day if they decide if they want to stay. Now, decisions like these, I don't understand what the alternative would be. It's like you either stay or your existence ceases to exist. I mean, it's grim to think about, but it's like these innies, that's all that their whole life is just in the like it sucks because you're literally your whole life is working, and I get it, but it's like you're just nothing. It's like thinking about when you die. It sucks, and I'm starting to tweak out on my own a little bit here, getting tingles. I don't like thinking about it. I'm sure these people don't like thinking about it, so of course they're all going to stay. I mean, that's really the only rational decision. So, of course, the first moment they get by themselves, they all dish on what they saw. So Mark tells the truth about everything he saw with his family. He was at his sister's or his brother-in-law's book party. Helly lies about her story. Irving doesn't say what happened to him, but he tells Dylan about the paintings of the dark hallway that he saw in his own Audi's apartment. So major sus vibes from Helly because Helly was down for the cause. I mean, now with a retroactive lens, having seen the whole season, you can kind of stick the clues here and we can, do a little bit of an analysis. But yeah, Helly, sus. Dylan, last thing here, meets with Milchek, and Milchek is actually going to tell him his wife's name for the first time and shows him a blueprint for a family visitation room where his family from the outside will be able to come in and visit him, visit his innie. And so that's where we leave off episode 1. My favorite of this episode, I'm giving to Mark. Brought the squad back together. Obviously, they all were going to come back together. But he also instantly told the truth about everything that went on in the real world in his version. So I applaud Mark for that. He gets my favorite episode. Also is the most dominating presence throughout the episode. Least favorite going to Helly, lying about what went on in her visit to the world. Initially I thought this was still all right. Watching this, I thought it was still Helly. We all did. So I said, come on, girl. Why you gotta lie? So that's my least favorite for episode 1. Episode 2 is titled Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig. So we start this episode out with the initial aftermath of the innies taking over everyone's body. So one of the funniest lines of the season, we have Helly/Helena's dad calling her a fetid moppet. What is that? You're a fetid moppet. What does this guy mean, bro? Who is this guy? I thought that was hilarious. So after everything settles down a little bit, Cobel is offered a potential promotion from Helly's Audi, Helena, that dumb person. And she says she needs to think about it. Cobel plays hardball this season. I mean, she was on a knee begging to the Kier gods in season 1, had a shrine and everything. In season 2, it gets a little spicy in there where she's, back and forth, fire. By the end of the season, she's on the other side. So really interested to see where Cobel's character goes from here. But she's kind of iffy on this promotion from Helena. So we have Milchek. We learn this is like the flashback episode to subdue the episode 1 and fill in the gaps. So Milchek goes around in his little motorcycle first to Irving. He fires Irving. He plays it off well with him. I think he was like, your performance hasn't been great. You did something and we can't tell you because, things, and you're going to be fired. He fires Dylan, who's a little bit clueless on what happened. He's like, well, Dylan has more questions than answers. Obviously, he just got fired, but it's like he's really upset. And we see Dylan. I think we'll get to that in a bit, so I'll leave that off on it. Um, so he sits down with Mark and his family, including Rickon and Devin, and he is seemingly angled for Mark to return, to not let his innie down. So really interesting how, we see him, obviously Helena is Helena, so he's not going to go fire her, but Irving and Dylan, he's okay with them going, but Mark, he really needs him to come back, so interesting to see that play out. Really weird scene of Helena just reviewing tape of Helly and Mark kissing, and then just keeps rewinding and watching it. She's kind of giving that rich girl who couldn't really get the guy she ever wanted, and now she's looking for something that's fun and interesting. And obviously I'm looking at that with a bird's eye view, seeing what happens in the season. But it's like, this was fucking weird. It's interesting though, because you have your other personality who's like wrapped up in this world, and they have a lover, and it's like, we see later on with Dylan and his wife, like, these are people I love in a different version of myself. So are they ultimately still compatible? You can make an argument that Helena is still compatible with Mark. Although watching the tape of them kissing, I thought was a little bit much, especially when you keep rewinding it and watching it. So we have Audi Mark starts his grump streak. He's pissed off about Devin pressing the issue with Gemma. Devin's like the most normal person in the show. I hate to be like calling out people for being weird and everything, but first of all, if you're signing up to get severed, you're a sheep, bro. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not like some, conspiracy theory. I I think Devin's just a normal person who's like, I think she's a perfect character for who she is, where she's like not too involved in the Severance world, but she's involved enough to be like, Mark, snap out of it. Your any version said your wife's alive and was working with you. Like, that makes no sense. We need to find this, like, exhaust every possible angle. I think in this moment, Mark's a little bit upset. I mean, he's been mourning Gemma for 2 years. Finally was able to kind of get over it and move on and date that nursing lady last season. He's kind of just in denial about the whole thing. He doesn't even know what he said. So, I didn't give Mark too many demerits for this grump streak, but Devin, I respect Devin. Devin's one of my like goats of the show because she's just normal and like wants things for people. So the suit man is also still there with them. I think his name is Drummond. I don't like Drummond. He's just kind of, Men in Black, like, suit who's just kind of a loser, and just gives off bad energy. So we have Bert and Irving's storyline continuing, where the Audi version of Bert, obviously his innie version retired, he is stalking Irving on his nice little Jaguar car, talking about his innie getting the message on a payphone. Didn't understand what this scene was at all, to be honest. I don't know who Irv's talking to. We never really find the answer to that. Irving's got some shit going on. I hope he doesn't just get like written out of the show in season 3, but I'm interested to see what this whole storyline ends up going with Bert. So we find out the reason why they were so willing to bring the team back. They needed to boost morale for Mark so he can get the project done, Cold Harbor. Now, Cold Harbor takes on a life of its own throughout the season, so I don't need to dive into too much of it here, but them bringing them all back, this project is important. So back at home, Mark is still next door neighbors with Cobel, and he sees her before she's able to move out and leave forever. He stops in the middle of her car. I mean, also, I didn't mention this, the trailer for season 2 is electric. I think I watched it like 4 times before watching the season, and even season 2 is already out. I love that trailer of season 2, Severance. I think that's one of the best TV show trailers of all time. Hot take. Anyways, he has a confrontation with her. What happened with Gemma? Is she alive? Cobel just pauses, honks, and then drives off. I mean, Cobel is having like a psychotic break. I don't know. She's just going through it. I don't know. So she's disappearing for a while. Mark still doesn't get his answers. I mean, at least his Audi version's asking about it. I don't know if that's due to Devin's pressure or whatever. So favorite of this episode, I've made it obvious, it's going to be Devin. Pressing the issue of Mark's wife possibly being alive and holding out hope. W person, W sister. Least favorite, I'm giving to Helena. She's scheming hardcore and also may not be severed going down the elevator. I would like to be like, I'm on that, but I read TV Time and there's a bunch of theories, just like every fucking dumb show we have. Stranger Things started it all with TikTok theories of everything that's going to happen. I'm actually kind of glad I didn't watch this season at the time it aired because I'd be getting wrapped up in all these dumb theories that make no sense. Anyways, least favorite was Helena, scheming hardcore and possibility that she's just scheming on Mark as her Audi version because the clues are starting to line up and it's only episode 2 and, spoiler alert, she actually is her Audi self. So that's my favorite and least favorite from episode 2. Episode 3 is titled Who is Alive? We start this episode out with Cobel waking up in the middle of nowhere. I guess she took her car ride out of Mark's neighborhood, woke up, and now she's in the middle of Guadalajara. No, I don't know where she is. Mark is timing how long it gets to get downstairs. In the first half of the season, he's going to try and, scheme up some stuff. Do what you can, but it's hard to communicate with two separate, complete personalities, so it is what it is. Respect the effort, though. So we have Helly and Mark making it back to the room with the goats. We saw the goats in season 1. That man was very angry to see them there. They found their way back through mapping it, and they are talking with Brienne of fucking Toth. No, it's just Gwendol. It's something Christie. Sorry. She's from Game of Thrones and Captain Phasma. She's in a bunch of stuff. She thinks that they are there in that room to kill her, and then she summons all of the workers in the room, and there's at least like 30 of them in the room. So interesting there. And going back to my Milchek point from episode 2 or 1, does he manage all of those people? There's still so many questions that need to be answered. So, as previously mentioned, there is now a family visit room. Dylan, of course, is like the most focused worker because Helly and Mark are just futzing around, and so is Irving. I mean, Irving's out of his desk 24/7 at this point looking for Bert and just being sad. So Dylan gets an 18-minute visit with his wife. It is the woman from The Walking Dead, Denise, who got, I can't say, never mind, no spoilers. And she shows him a picture of his kids. This was a nice interaction, to say the least. It was a little bit weird because she's in love with who he is outside of this office, but in the office he's kind of the same person, and this relationship back and forth between Dylan's wife and his innie is interesting as we develop throughout the season. So Irving, in his travels throughout the office, reconnects with Felicia, and Felicia was Bert's kind of side worker in the first season. So she kind of tells him a little bit about Bert having retired and being out of the office. She communicates with Irving's innie, tells him, Bert was nervous to see you. I think the truest love in this whole show is Irving and Bert's innie, man. They were really my favorite. Burving, what do we call them? Art? No, it can't be Art, so it's got to be Burving. They're my favorite couple in the show. That feels actually genuine, not just forcing Mark with Helly because they work together. I mean, I guess you can say the same thing about Irving and Bert, but I'm a Burving guy. I'm here for Burving. I want Burving to get back together, hoping we see more in the next season. Irving drew pictures of Bert every day, or I think it was the other way around. I might have recorded that wrong. Either way, one of them was drawing pictures every day. I think it was Irving, actually, because Irving draws like the black hallways and stuff, and he's also has got the art on the Audi. And then Felicia stumbles into Irving's drawing of the hallway, the mysterious hallway, which he calls the exports hall, which the MDR team doesn't know what that is, but it's going to become very important later on in the season. And I'm not sure how he knows this hallway because his Audi knows it. I think his Audi's like researching mad shit. I think Irving's Audi might be the smartest Audi, besides Helly, who fucking knows everything. So that's that for that interaction. And then we go back to Mark and Helly, who are with the mammalians. And their objective basically is just to raise goats to be slaughtered. I mean, we don't really understand what their jobs really are, but they're okay with Helly and Mark continuing their search for Gemma / Miss Casey and they do not know what happened to her. No one saw her. I mean, it seems like they're pretty isolated from the rest of the office. They don't really get to walk around. I mean, I don't think anyone's really supposed to walk around. But the mammalians seem like kind of a, like, I don't know, corner of the office. No one goes over there type vibe. So the HR woman has made her way to Rickon and Devon's house, trying to change the book around to fit better for the innies. Obviously, we saw in season 1, Rickon's book was off the charts with them. They were obsessed with it, but I think that's only because it was the only piece of literature in the whole entire establishment. So probably he could just make a few changes and it'd be like even better. And I'm sure he'll drop a couple more books, get all that money from Lumen. And it's funny because they, especially Rickon at the beginning, is very anti Severance. And then now when the money starts calling his name, he's not so anti-Lumen anymore. I see you. I see you. I see you, Rickon. So, continuing on, Mark is trying to maneuver a way to ask his innie who's alive with an afterimage, burning an afterimage. This idea just felt really stupid and felt like it was never going to work. Devon's in on it because she wants to see Gemma / Miss Casey back again, but I don't know. I felt like this was actually never going to really work. And then we have Cobel asking Helena for Milchek to go. There's always been a little bit of budding tension between those two. Obviously, Milchek took her job, so now she wants him gone. And then she wants to oversee Mark finish the project. She has a very specific list of asks. And then that project, of course, is Cold Harbor. There's a little back and forth beef between Miss Cobel and Helena. And then when Cobel sees the bodyguard working with Helena, I believe that's Drummond, she leaves. So something going on here. Cobel, I kind of am still waiting to hear Cobel's side of the story. I think that could be really interesting. So last bit of this episode, we have the lady from season 1 who is helping Petey reintegrate into the world is back. He comes and stops Mark's plan, or she stops Mark's plan to burn the image into his head. She's like, that's not going to work. Like I said, bro, it's a stupid plan. And she tells him Gemma was alive the last time she saw her, leaving it vague and open, of course. And then Mark's like, you know what, I want to be integrated. His Audi, of course, wants to be reintegrated. He wants to find out where Gemma is because that's the love of his life. He's been grieving her for 2 years, etc. Her name is Asal, the woman who's been helping. And Mark is becoming integrated, and he is introduced back to the first time he woke up on the table at Lumen, as we saw Helly do as the kind of introductory to Severance. So he's starting to get his memories back from being in the office and also have his presence of out of the office. So that'll wrap up episode 3. My favorite of this episode goes to Mark. I respect him taking the leap of faith for Gemma. Wish his innie felt the same way, and reintegrating, even though I feel like this will go wrong. Least favorite went to Natalie. Just weird vibes with the Rickon book being a corporate shill, and no one really pissed me off this episode, so I had to pick somebody. I picked Natalie. So that'll wrap up episode 3. Episode 4 is titled Woe's Hollow. And we start this episode out with another person waking up in the middle of nowhere, this time being Irving. He's in the middle of a frozen pond. Mark yells out from the top of a cliff. Helly spawns in also, and then Dylan comes through a bush. Turns out this is all a mission from Milchek to find a sacred Egan text with blessings from their Audis, which I think is a little bit weird that the Audis all signed up on this, as this trend has been a theme throughout the season for me of why the Audis really agree to this stuff off screen. Like, we don't really see them ever negotiate for anything, and they're just like, yeah, they can go fuck off in the woods. They'll be taken care of by one guy and it's a kid. I don't know. Feels a little bit farce. I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't want my innie to do that. I wouldn't even have an innie, so I guess I can't really talk. Anyways, a creepy version of Mark pops up pointing in a direction for them to follow, and this trend will continue with all of them having these weird pop-up versions just pointing them in a direction to go, which I thought this was like a hunt for it, not just follow the leader or follow what the thing's pointing. So Irving sees Helly and Mark talking. They're still close. Obviously, Mark thinks it's the innie Helly, and they are trying to build up their romantic relationship. But he's very suspicious of Helly's story. She didn't tell anything in season 1, and then she said she saw a gardener, and Irving famously was like a night gardener. There ain't no night gardeners. So he's still suspicious of that. and what her Audi saw, and he was onto something. He was clued in, and he presses her now on it and says, "What did you actually see? Come on, tell me what you actually saw." Which I don't think he says what he actually saw, so I don't know if that's really fair, but she doesn't respond, and she leaves the tent very frustrated. I mean, this becomes, I think it was like the bonfire, but this becomes a very tense subject between the two of them, eventually heating up into the conflict of the episode. So Helly makes fun of the story that Milchek tells them at the fire. They're sitting around the fire with marshmallows. It's funny seeing how like corporate everything is, where they have like the corporate marshmallow sticks, the corporate marshmallows, and everything's like a reward. And Milchek's dressed out in all white, and it's just funny. Miss Huang's there. But once Helly makes fun of the story Milchek's telling, he has Miss Huang throw the marshmallows into the fire. And once again, Irving brings up this suspicion he has on Helly for not telling the truth about what's going on the outside. And this time it gets a little bit nasty, with him also taking a shot at Mark and commenting on how his Audi's wife is rotting away. Got a little too deep there. I didn't really appreciate that part of it, but, Irving breakout episode, so I'm here for it. But I don't know, I feel like you didn't have to go that far. And Irving was like who I thought was the nicest of all them, but that was a pretty nasty comment, probably the meanest thing said so far on the show from the Indies versions. So, of course, he leaves the fire. Dylan's kind of like, I'm not going to sit here and be a third wheel. So it's Mark and Helly alone at the fire. They end up into one of their tents. And, of course, once again, here we go. Mark and Helly kissing. I wrote in my note, if this is Helena, what the fuck? And it is Helena, what the fuck? I mean, she's just emotionally manipulating Helly. I mean, Helly's like, is Helly really a person? I don't know. It's a whole moral debate that we don't have time for on this podcast. I'm just giving you my thoughts and reactions, instant reaction. But yeah, I think she's jealous of what Helly has, because Helena is like a CEO type, probably doesn't get a lot of spare time to mingle with others, find a significant other. There's another scene down the road that's even weirder, but I mean, I think she's just looking for love, and she knows that some version of her loves Mark, so there's some version of Mark that loves her back, and this specific version of Mark loves her back, so she's just taking advantage of the situation. It's kind of fucked up. And so Mark, they are getting intimate, and he has a reintegration glitch where he sees Gemma's face on Helly, which the reintegration, it's kind of a long process throughout the season. You kind of forget it's going on at some points. This was kind of one of them where it's like, oh yeah, I remember he's reintegrating from last episode with nothing happened off that. So seeing Gemma's face still reminds his outer version of her. He kind of freaks out, but it's all good. They're going to make love and everything. And then the morning comes, and the big moment of the episode, one of the biggest moments of the season, Irving clocks Helena pretending to be an innie. He goes sort of crazy, saying he's going to kill her and that she's an Egan. Milchek calls it in. I mean, that's like a hostage situation where he's holding her, dumping her under the water. If you don't switch her back to Helly, I'm gonna, kill her. And so Milchek calls it in to switch her back. And now, of course, Irving's gonna be fired right away. And he says that now, and that's it. That's it for episode 4. I mean, brilliant stuff by Irving. I mean, he knew the whole time. Maybe he's the smartest and the nicest. No, he's definitely not the nicest after this episode, but he was clocking shit. His road ends here, but he just helped Mark a bunch. Dylan's kind of just like on his own side quest this season, to be honest. But yeah, what the sneaking suspicions were, and I can confirm I had it in my notes. I don't want to be like LeBron reading a book and being like, yeah, I knew Kobe was dropping 81. Then I had a suspicion with help from TV Time. I'm not a genius, I didn't have the luxury like you guys to watch the show and it was coming out week by week. So I was helped and I was led to believe things, but that's fair and good, because if I was watching it live, I still would have been on TV Time. So say what you will, I kind of saw this coming a little bit. So yeah, that's where we leave off for episode 4. Just kind of a crazy episode, with the whole climax of it being Irving's revelation about Helly. So I like this episode, definitely one of the strongest episodes of the season. I also like the outdoor aesthetic, get them out of the office, all winter gear and cold. I think they're in Minnesota, but I could be wrong on that. Pennsylvania, wherever they are. I don't think they actually say specifically. So favorite of this episode, there's a clear and far number 1. It's Irving. He clocked Helena real good and did the things no one else was brave enough to do. True hero. We'll miss any Irving. This is the last we see of him for now. Will he ever be back? I don't know, but I got a feeling Audi Irving's cooking up something, or he'll just leave until like season 5 and then randomly come back in. Either way, he's cooking. So favorite going to Irving. Least favorite, going to Helena, not Helly. Emotionally manipulated Mark by sleeping with him when it was her innie who actually liked him, and also caused the issues with Gemma's stuff in Mark's head. I don't give her that much stuff for that. That's just on Mark for kind of reintegrating. But fuck Helena. All my homies hate Helena Egan. So that's where we'll leave off episode 4. Episode 5 is titled Trojan's Horse. And we start this episode out with someone taking something from O&D and then going to the hallway that Irving had drawn previously, the exports hall, I believe we classified earlier. Thinking about it now, this scene doesn't really come up again. You know, questions need to be answered, man. You know, what does this mean? Season 3, fuck. So, moving forward, now that we've had the establishment that Helly was Helena, Helly now has to go down as her innie. Obviously, this isn't the best case scenario for what people wanted, especially herself, because her innie is just way cooler, way better, in my opinion. And she is jealous of her, and because of the stuff with Mark. Anyways, that'll be the new moving forward, is what we believe to be true, is that Helly is down there with the crew working. We'll see if that was just Cap the whole time. I mean, didn't seem like it was Cap. Seems like it was actually her down there, but you never know with Severance. So Mark is acting out of it this episode. Not sure if it's the reintegrations got him feeling a little bit froggy or just the events from last episode. I mean, you had a very tense moment with Irving. You had the whole reveal that Helly was actually Helena, and then Dylan was kind of off doing his own thing. So that takes a lot in a person's soul, especially when you're on that trip and you wake up, you're back in the office again. So understandably, not the best day for Mark this episode. Dylan randomly finds a note with instructions on how to get to the hallway behind a picture of, I think it's behind the picture of Irving. So now we know how to get to this hallway. Will Dylan act on it? They all kind of take turns being the goody two shoes besides, well, it's basically just Irving and Mark that are like the goody two shoes, mostly Irving. But Dylan is going to sit on this information for a little bit, but he does have the directions to the hallway that is being referenced throughout the season. Milchek has his performance review, and this is with the big man, Mr. Drummond, his superior. His negatives are he uses too many big words, he has an incorrect use of paper clips, and of course the many debacles that have happened with the MDR team. Now, uses too many big words. I'm going to break these down, of course, because what else do we do here? Uses too many big words. I understand that. That's annoying, but I don't think in a professional setting, I think you want your employees to be using bigger words, sound educated, especially when they're speaking with other colleagues. Like, who's Milchek talking to outside the company? Lumen's just an internal company building bad shit and, doing weird projects. It's not like they have people coming in and saying, I don't understand what you're saying. Also, Milchek only talks to the MDR team, pretty much, it seems like, so, and the board and whatever. So I guess that's something they're upset with. I think that's a pretty, weak review to mark something down on. Incorrect use of paper clips. Now, this is got it. Lumen is just crazy. They watch everything. They're like a hawk over everything. Incorrect use of paper clips. I don't even understand what this was about. I get the concept of it. Oh, you have to do the smallest things right, but it's this is what you're bringing up in a performance review. You know what? This just proves Milchek's a good employee, because if that's the thing you're bringing up, he's done a damn good job. So shout out to Milchek for his great performance review, because if you're minusculing down to using incorrect paper clips or using paper clips the incorrect way, he's done a damn good job on everything else. Not to mention the freaking 10 million disasters that have happened in the MDR department in 14 episodes of television so far. No, incorrect use of paper clips. So, that stuff just happens, I guess, and it's the paper clips that was the problem. Now, he does get some positives. This Cold Harbor project will be known as one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of the planet, which just seems like gross over estimation and prophecy. There's no way. I mean, maybe it could be, I mean, I say one thing, then I say the other. No, I mean, I don't know. I think when the guy said it, it was in the trailer, which I don't think I've mentioned the season 2 trailer. I think I already mentioned it, but it's been in my mind. I love the season 2 trailer. Just give me the season 2 trailer all over again. Give us the season 3 trailer now. Let us run with it for a while and make theories and go on TikTok. No, actually, I haven't seen Severance on TikTok, which I'm surprised about because usually all the popular shows goes on TikTok. So maybe Milchek's use of bigger words is keeping the TikTok generation away from the show. So there you go, even more positives. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The greatest accomplishments in the history of the planet. I guess we'll have to get the full scope of Cold Harbor. And will we ever get the full scope of Cold Harbor? The question remains to be answered. Irving, his episode, he makes a call to someone on the outside. Bert pulls up, and, Irving sees him this time. He's like, hey, what are you doing here stalking me? And Bert says, I got fired due to having an erotic relationship with someone. So he didn't retire. His Indy was lied to. His Audi lied and said, I'm retiring, but it was actually the erotic relationship with Irving, seemingly, that got him fired. And now he invites him over for dinner, and Irving is going to meet Bert in a more formal setting with his husband also. And that conversation will certainly be something. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole Irving Bert storyline, I hope we get more context on that because I don't even know what happened when Irving went up to the door, I feel like we're missing that big chunk of the puzzle. Season 3, opening scene, Irving at the door, reintegrating back into the season. So, favorite of this episode, I'm giving to Dylan. I didn't mention this episode, but this was the quote-unquote funeral for Irv's Innie. He'll never return to Lumen as an Innie, so his Innie has died, and Dylan fought for, a goodbye for him, slightly becoming more human and human. Dylan's Innie is, so I appreciate that out of Dylan. Least favorite, I'm giving to Mark. He was kind of having an attitude this episode. I mentioned before there's some reasons behind it, but you're reintegrating, bro. Chill out. You chose to do this. Maybe cool it a little bit. So that's all for episode 5. Episode 6 is titled Attila. And this episode starts out with Milchek not being happy with Miss Huang after his performance review. Obviously, there's only a couple of colleagues that work with him. Cobel is gone, so it probably was Miss Huang who, relayed the message to upper management about his work habits, mostly the paper clips and the using too big of words. That would make sense, especially since Miss Huang is a child, but these two's dynamic back and forth all season is funny, especially since Miss Huang is 12 years old. Moving on, Mark and Helly are back in business. Mark tells her about the sex he had with Helena, and she doesn't take that the best. Helly wanted that for herself. Her other version stole that. I mean, that's basically like another woman taking her man, especially double down because it's a version of her on the outside world talking with the version that she talks to. So yeah, she's not very happy about it. She's kind of distanced herself a little bit, needs some time, some steam to blow off, be ready for the day, attacked. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, moving on. Dylan has another meeting with his Audi's wife, and, this is one of those classic tales of caution because he wants it to be all the time now that they can be together, but that's not possible because she doesn't live on the office like he does 24/7 and is married to another man, which is him on the outside. But they do share a kiss, which was really uncomfortable just because, we don't even really know Audi Dylan that well. But this kiss, together, it's just ooh, it gives you bad vibes because it's basically cheating. It's essentially cheating. I'm sorry, it is. So that was really uncomfortable, and, we're going to have a conversation about that one. Speaking of love, Helly and Mark do the deed. They have sex in a room in the office to make up for the other sex that happened on the retreat. So Helena got her revenge on Helly by, banging Mark at the retreat, but now Helly's like, that's actually my man. He actually thought he was banging me. I'm going to bang him now. So who's really on top? Plus the end of the season BS. Anyways, Helly wins over Helena because they have it was real sex before, but this is, she gets to have it too. So she gets to experience that in one of her 8 hours of being alive on this planet today. Moving on. Mark gets frustrated after having a nosebleed during reintegration. We saw this, it felt like Petey's face was just bloody at all times. So Mark's pretty lucky considering his reintegration has seemingly gone a little bit better, where Petey was like crashing out, falling all over the place, bloody all over, always wearing the same suit. Like Mark's at least kind of put together somewhat, seemingly. And the lady who I said the name of before but forget, is helping him reintegrate, is trying to push him way too far. He's like, slow it down, there's no need to rush, which is true, but Cold Harbor, you might want to rush. But yeah, he's a little bit frustrated in life. Next, we have Irving's dinner with Bert that we learned of last episode, and he became severed, so his innie could go to for his innie to go to heaven. I don't know what this note means. I think Irving's innie went to heaven because he's dead now. I don't know. I don't really know what that means. Sorry. Next, Dylan's wife lies about her appointment at Lumen, saying it got canceled, but no, you did have the appointment and did kiss the innie. Come on, Denise from Walking Dead. I mean, my heart breaks for Addie Dillon. I don't think I wrote it down because it definitely happened by now, but we saw him trying to apply for other jobs, and there's like a big anti-severance movement out there, so nobody wants to hire people who have been severed. He's got a tough life. They've raised 3 kids together. It's tough to watch this happen, especially now that like it seems like she's gonna want to go with the innie, but hopefully things will change. Helena, on the outside, coincidentally runs into Mark at a restaurant and sits down at a table. I referenced this earlier on in the review. Super uncomfortable, bro, because now Helena's like trying to get her lick back, even though I don't think she even knew what happened with Helly and Mark on the inside, but now she's trying to form a connection with Mark on the outside. Why are all these women obsessed with Mark? Like, he's just a very I mean, maybe it's like that thing where it's like, girls kind of like guys who are a little bit of an asshole and don't really care about life. Like, Mark's really just grieving and like grumpy, especially Audi Mark is very like, he doesn't really have, like, what have we seen Audi Mark do as a hobby? We see him go to a funeral, hang out with his sister, like watch TV sometimes. Like, what are his hobbies, bro? I mean, I don't know what's so attractive about the guy. Maybe it's just Adam Scott is so astonishingly beautiful that every woman falls in love with him, but Helena's in there too, and Helly, both of them like her, or both of them like Mark, so I don't know. She sits down at the table with him, bringing up Gemma, which I thought was really weird, considering that how would she possibly know about Gemma? I guess she's like high up in the company. She has all the files. I don't know. If I was Mark, I'd be tweaked out by that. She also called her Hannah at first. Maybe that was like not a Freudian slip, but like a fake slip up to be like, oh, Hannah. Oh, I mean, Gemma, sorry. Like to be like, I definitely haven't been following your file, like name by name, inch by inch to know exactly who Gemma is. This whole interaction, bro, I'm done with Helena, bro. I really can't. I don't like Helena at all. So we continue with the dinner with Irving. Fields, who is Bert's husband, asked the two at dinner if they think they ever made love in the office. Super uncomfortable. I have heard the rumors out there that there are a lot of people making love at offices. So if you work in an office, always wash your hands. Be careful where, you find yourself. This is a common occurrence that happens. You don't think about it, but it does happen. People do this, so I don't know. But Fields is like not pressing, but being like, "You guys think you ever made love in the office?" Obviously, he doesn't seem to be too offended, but he's probably like semi-interested in what actually did happen. And he's been talking to his pastor about it, so that solves everything. He's cool with it. That's his kind of therapy. He's all good, and he believes innies do deserve love. I mean, I agree. It's like those people. I've mentioned it throughout both my reviews. Those people are alive for 8 hours a day, and they gotta work their whole lives. Literally, people are like, we work our whole lives. We work 8 hours a day, most of us. Some of you people out there work 10 to 12. I respect you, but you're not. Even if you're clocking whatever hours you're getting overtime, you still go home and sleep or go home and drink, or just like you don't work your whole lives. Innies work their entire lives. So I believe they do deserve love. They should get an hour off. Let's do a 9-hour work day, no lunch break, and we have an hour to ourselves to have fun. Those poor people, all they do is work all day. So I agree with Fields on this aspect. They do deserve love. Mark now wants to do the reintegration after the experience meeting Helena. I would too. I'd be like, let's get this life over with because I have fucking weird CEOs following me around to restaurants. Like, let's just get this over with. I need to see what the fuck's going on with Mark. And I can't with the brain shit again. He cuts the woman who's helping him cuts his head open. I can't. I hate the blood, the cuts. Almost passed out. I didn't almost pass out, but like I looked away. I can't do that stuff. Finally, Devin comes in at the worst time into Mark's apartment right after the reintegration takes place. She admits to somebody that she had a crush on the girl at the retreat. I think she said that walking in, like she didn't know that Mark was just out of it, completely out of it. But okay, Devin swinging both ways. I didn't see that out of Devin, but good for her for being open about it. And she is married to Rickon, so I think she's married. But to say that out loud, interesting perspective, and didn't expect that out of her. So interesting development to her character. And then right as soon as she sees Mark, he hits the deck. That's what happened. He just hit the deck. So Devin's going to be panicking about Mark. So that leaves off episode 6. My favorite from this episode is Mark. He's speeding this process along. Actually told Helly the truth about what had happened before with her Audi at the retreat. Least favorite I'm giving to Fields. Not because of anything he specifically did, just due to my suspicion that something fishy is going on with Bert and him. Bert mentioned being severed before Severance is even a thing. Also made the dinner pretty awkward. So that'll wrap up episode 6. Episode 7 is titled Chickhai Bardo. We start off this episode with Gemma. Now, we haven't heard from Gemma all season, but we get a Gemma episode, so this was a nice episode to stay along with Gemma. She has a memory of her and Mark meeting at a blood drive before having her blood taken again somewhere, so she is currently having her blood taken. Is flashback to the scene of meeting Mark, and she seemingly gets severed to go to the dentist and walks by a door that says Cold Harbor. So right off the bat, we're thrown into this kind of what the hell going on here, and still I don't even really know what's going on here. There's a million theories. I mean, this is just like the Gemma stuff on its own. It could be a whole fucking theory, not to mention everything else going on in the show. So we learn Gemma at one point was pregnant. Like, how, like, the showrunners, the script writers, wow, man, because how do you even come up with this stuff? I think she's just pregnant. It's like a basic plot line. Anyways, there's some nice scenes of her and Mark together when they were younger, and then she's kind of down bad in the shower crying. There's some stuff implied there. I don't think she was allowed to or able to give birth. We don't really know yet. So she is maybe classified as infertile. At this point, I didn't really know what was happening. Like I just said, I mean, there's further context scenes, but I was kind of missing the picture. I feel like this would be a good show to watch with somebody else, so you can just like bounce your theories off them in real time, and then they're like, "Oh, that's probably idiotic." Also, weekly watching would probably be actually pretty good on this show, where you're like, you have a whole week to talk about the episode with your friends, your significant other, your parents, whoever else watches this with you, and break down ideas and be like, "Wait, that's actually probably not the case." And maybe you go on TikTok, look at the TikTok theories. I don't know. I didn't know what was happening during this first half of this episode, to be honest. So in the present day, she does remember Mark and wants to see Mark. She's asking to see Mark, but she needs to go through this whole process in order to see him, which is the Cold Harbor Project. But we find out later that that's not true, so they're obviously just lying to her. This is the dark side of Lumen. Like, I don't really know. It's like the shady, this is what people think the government is. It's just like a company like Lumen running these special projects, taking kids from the street and just making them into a scientific experiment. I don't know what's happening. Like, it's very scary. It's very dark as well because, I think we get to it later on, so I'll save it for that. So this isn't just a Gemma episode. We still have Devin, and she insists on calling Cobel, which is really stupid. I don't like. I've been a very proud supporter of Devin throughout this entire show. This episode was like the worst Devin episode. Why would you call Cobel? She was creeping on you with the nanny stuff and the I forget the name of it, and I feel bad because when you're helping breastfeed, whatever she was helping with that, Cobel was a creep, bro. And like, I'm not calling her for anything. She can go to Slovakia. I'm never talking to her again, bro. You got to trust who's right there, the doctor. The doctor's like, if you call Cobel, I'm leaving. Devin, she's the only person in the room who can help. Why are you going to call Cobel? It was like, oh, facepalm moment from Devin. I'm a Devin guy, but that made me annoyed. Meanwhile, Gemma has one of the cards that Dylan took from O&D that we saw Milchek have to go to Audi Dylan and put him in the closet and do the emergency protocol to get him to tell him where the card was. So we don't know what this card is. Like, there's so many things floating around, man. It's hard to keep track. But I mean, you see this and you're like, oh, I remember that from Dylan. Like, what is now? Gemma has one of these cards. What does these cards mean? Guess that's another question we'll have to get answered. Continuing on. Once again, what is going on with Gemma? She's in a plane and then she's writing thank you notes for Christmas while the big guy said he's going to have to say bye to her. I don't know what's happening with Gemma. I mean, I'm assuming these are all the different project rooms she goes into. This is like a hard episode to follow, in my opinion. And so we have her talking to the doctor in the office. This guy's kind of an asshole. That's all you really need to know about the doctor. He lies to Gemma and says Mark remarried, and then she smashes him with a chair. And that's like, whoa, we heating up now. Gemma gonna get escape on her own? Probably not, though. She goes right back to Milchek, who tells her to turn around. This is the Miss Casey version, unfortunately. So she's severed in that realm with Milchek. Has to turn around because Milchek tells her to turn around. So pretty absurd episode because we get the whole Gemma episode or Gemma backstory. No one really knows what's going on with Gemma. Now we kind of have an idea of it. We still don't have the full picture, obviously. But that's episode 7. My favorite for this episode, clearly going to Gemma. Does actually want to get out, and she does have a deal she does have to deal with mad bullshit in order to live her life. You know, this is a poor Gemma. Like, we see her be decommissioned as Miss Casey, but she's just doing this like 19 times over with different rooms. So my favorite goes to Gemma. You know, we're with Team Gemma out there. I'm a very strong Team Gemma supporter, which you'll see in the finale. Least favorite, the doctor that's with her. Not letting her get away and forcing her to do all that stuff. Come on, man. Be better. You know, you don't have to be a dark, creepy doctor for Lumen. There's better ways to go about your business. So that'll wrap up episode 7. Episode 8 is titled Sweet Vitriol. The best episode of Severance of all fucking time. I said what I said. No, just kidding. This is easily the worst episode in the whole show. We start this episode out, continuing on with Cobel, who drove off into the distance a couple episodes ago. She's now driving to an old town that she probably has some history in. Litters a water bottle, notably. Now, you know, a lot of people have negative connotations about corporations. I tend to think most people working in corporations are just there to make money, get a payday, and go home. But when you're outside littering water bottles, when you're littering in general, fuck you. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I can't be nice about it, you know. Don't do that. Then she walks into a coffee shop, makes the guy buy her coffee, then tries to make him drive her to quote-unquote sissies. 3 major red flags right there. So first, the water bottle, that pissed me off. Second, making the guy buy her coffee. This guy's hard at work. He's got a patron, you know. Seems like it's a lonely island. The guy's working a 2-man diner. Like, let him be. I mean, those didn't seem like he was making a lot of money, but it's his job. I don't know. And then he makes him drive to sissies. He's on the fucking clock, Cobel. So really off to a bad start with Cobel. She goes back into her old house and ends up in a confrontation with her sister. Sissy, obviously, you know, easy connection there. The sister, we learn, pulled the plug on their mother, seemingly the life support. She lays in her mother's bed and breathes her air tube while crying. Yeah, I mean, this episode's really just, I don't really know, like, we go from Gem episode to Miss Cobel episode. This one was even maybe more confusing than the Gem episode. I don't really know what's happening. You know, she's in the air tube crying, then she gets up again because the guy is back, and they get high on something and kiss for a minute and then stop because Sissy's doing something. So we learn that Harmony Cobel was the one who invented the Glasgow block, the overtime contingency, etc. Didn't get any credit for it. Now, maybe this adds up to what happened earlier on in season 2, but in season 1, we don't like she's high up in the company. We don't really see any of this. So this is a nice little insight into a little bit of history of Harmony Cobel. Obviously, we saw her with the what's the name? The shrine. Egan, got it. The Egan shrine. So clearly she had an affinity for this company, and it's been all kind of tarnished with this whole takedown and the Innies being able to go on the outside world. She gets fired, doesn't like the deal that Helena's offering to come back. So there is some spite there. She's looking for something in the house. This was just kind of a waste of an episode, to be honest. I think this could have been like 2 or 3 scenes. Anyways, she picks up the phone call at the end of the episode from Devin and starts speaking to Mark, who is just waking up from reintegration. So maybe some cross collaboration in the works there. That's it for episode 8, man. A really uneventful episode. I mean, I could go on and on about how this was a waste of an episode. I'm not going to waste your guys' time talking about it. I just think, this literally could have been 2 or 3 scenes in episode 8 or 9. 8 was all Gemma, so maybe 7 or 8. Like, we didn't see Cobel for a couple episodes, and she fucks off to some random town, like, does some random shit, and it's like, I don't know, she's still kind of doing weird stuff. So, favorite of this episode really goes to the only notable character, like Zona Cobel. She's going to end up helping Mark and Devin, so good on that. And she was a genius who basically invented Severance. So smart lady Cobel. There's a little bit more than meets the eye with her. Least favorite, I'm giving to Sissy. Just this weird woman and gave off bad vibes. Asked Cobel to leave like 10 times, but then didn't do anything about it. So that's it for episode 8, Sweet Vitriol. Episode 9 is titled The After Hours. We start this episode out with Miss Huang seemingly becoming a fellow, I guess. I don't really know what that means in terms of Lumen. Some sort of graduation. And in order for her to graduate, she has to smash her little ring toss game that we see being played. I was informed by a coworker that this is something that people did play back in the day, so maybe a little throwback game for you there, but she has to smash it, which Milchek seems pretty happy to enforce. I don't know why. Obviously, maybe the dynamics back and forth between those two, with her being gone, this is kind of like a FU on the way out. Don't really know what the deal is with Miss Huang throughout this episode. Moving on, Dylan's wife is back at home, and she finally opens up about kissing his innie. Well, not finally. This is probably like one of their first interactions that we've seen since it happened. Understandably so, Dylan on the outside is not happy about it. This interaction is basically cheating, like I mentioned before. What is your guys' moral standards for this? Is this cheating or is this not cheating? I'm actually interested to see what you have to say. I've spoke to someone very important in my life, and I asked them, is flirting cheating? And they said no. So my world is shook. So I don't really know. I haven't had the most relationship experience. So those of you who have the privilege of being in long relationships or short relationships even, is flirting cheating? Now, mind you, a kiss definitely is cheating. I'm classifying this as cheating. So sorry, but it is what it is. Bert appears in Irving's home and makes him go for a ride with him after reading his conspiracy theories about Severance. I think Bert is on the inside. I know this is probably like a cold take. Like everyone probably has this take, but Bert's somehow involved in like the early days of Severance. I think he was like maybe one of the first people, got paid handsomely, was high up at Lumen. That O&D department is a little bit suspect. Like, I can't lie. I like the other girl they have there, but Felicia. But I don't know. Something's off with Bert. Like, and maybe Irving was getting close to the conspiracies. They send him over, like, go deal with him. I don't know. Something suspicious is going on there. They go for a ride. Whatever. I don't really know what was going on there. I'm looking into Bert if he continues for season 3. I don't even know if they're even going to continue that storyline in season 3. Gretchen, that is Dylan's wife, tells Dylan's innie that she needs to stop coming or the outie Dylan would quit. She's crying while telling him this but says no to his offering of a life. Ouch for innie Dylan. Innie Dylan's like, I can offer you a life. I know you like me better, but I think this somehow reaffirmed her love for the outie Dylan. Like, she knew outie Dylan for, a lot of years if they've had 3 kids together. I don't know. I think it makes sense. It's kind of like a wake-up call. So Gretchen's going to have to stop the family visit. I'm interested to see what the future of the family visitation room is. Do you think it will continue? I think it can't be for love, I think, is just cursed in the Severance realm. No, well, love is everyone, obviously, but Romanticism. I think you can't have romantic partners in there. It just screws everything up. Like, what's you gonna like? Send a kid in. What's the kid's gonna be nice and talk to him. If it's the wife or a significant other, I just don't think that's gonna work. So experiment failed in my opinion. The family visitation room. Any Dylan's, going through it. These people, I mean, I don't know how many times I have to fucking say it. These Indies have terrible lives, and now he's offering a life to her. She says no. That hurts, because Indy Dillon's one we spend the most time with. Audi Dillon, we don't spend a lot of time with him, so that hurts to see Indy Dillon face failure like that. Continuing on, we are with Cobel and Mark and Devin now. Cobel tells Mark that if he completes Cold Harbor, that means Gemma is dead. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. It's like all the different rooms. It's all an equation somewhere. I'm just like a overarching reaction channel. I'm just giving you a normal person's reactions. I'm sure there's people out there, and I haven't even delved. I don't know if it's good or bad that I haven't even delved into the Severance conspiracy theories on everything, because you could probably make like a 10-hour video of just explaining everything in Severance, and it probably still wouldn't even be enough. And the show is only like 15 hours on its own. Like, it's crazy, bro. There's a lot of stuff going on here with Cold Harbor. But keep the facts simple. If Cobel says that Mark completes it, she's dead, so you can't complete Cold Harbor unless you have a plan. Dylan's Innie, after the tough rejection from Gretchen, fills out the resignation form. Now, we've seen a lot of resignation forms, well, only from Hallie, be rejected. Will Dylan's Audi reject this offer? We've seen him have a lot of money issues. Not money issues, but like needs to have a job, basically. Obviously, a lot of people need to have a job. This is America, seemingly America. I don't know if this takes place in America because different names and stuff. I don't know. But, he needs this job. The Audi needs the job, so I doubt the resignation form will get filled out. But that's a sad sign that Dylan's Innie's done here, after the rejection from Gretchen. Milchek, best scene of the episode, stands up to Drummond. He, owns him. I forget the specific line that he said. Milchek, has grown on me this season. He's kind of in place to be the like smaller antagonist to watch over them, but when he stood up to Drummond and cooked him, he was making some points. So I got respect for Milchek. I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, Milchek has a bad last episode, but maybe Milchek will be part of like a rebellion, or Milchek did try and help a lot. I don't know if that was enforced by him or corporate, but he did the family visitation room. He did the presentation early in the season. Like, he followed through with the funeral for Irv's Innie. I'm fucking with Milchek. I'm sorry, bro. Let's go, Milchek. Mark calls out of work and says he will definitely be at work tomorrow, so the plan has to begin now. I think Milchek was a little bit more suspicious this time around just due to everything else that has happened, and, they haven't really been keeping great tabs on Mark out of work as they were before. So he, like, kind of lets him get out of work with a little bit of suspicion on him. But that's what happens. Bert buys Irving a train ticket. Bert can't know where it gets off. He doesn't want to see Irving. Well, he can't see Irving ever again just due to their relationship in the office. Fields is probably, a little bit scared. Irving is ready for a relationship, but Bert says we can't. Another heartbreaking scene we had two love stories come to an end this episode. Dylan's Innie and Gretchen, and now Bert and Irving on the outside. The storyline, I think, is confusing me a little bit between Bert and Irving. Hopefully we get some explanations behind what's going on with Bert, especially. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them again to, like, season 4. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know where the storyline's, like, presence is. I don't know if it's coming back. Are we leaving them to be? Are they going to be a standalone episode? I don't know. I don't know what the future of Irving is. We'll have to wait for the season 3 trailer, which hopefully will be coming in 2026. Anyways, Dylan awaits the answer from his Audi for the resignation. Huang officially leaves the Lumen office. Irving departs on the train to get off at an unknown destination. Mark gets ready to go to the birthing retreat for their plan, which is going to be to have Innie Mark talk to Audi Mark through the birthing retreat, walking in and out of the doors. Helly tries to memorize the directions to the dark hallway, and then her dad comes down the stairs, and Innie Mark has reappeared now and is talking back to Devin and Cobel, so they're kind of setting up a lot of stuff here for this finale. that will wrap up episode 9. Favorite of this episode, I alluded to it before. I'm giving it to Milchek. Fuck it. He gave some spice back to Drummond and Hwang, even though I don't think Hwang really deserves it. But we ball. Him saying to basically eat shit. That's what it was. Consume flatulence, I think he said, was fire. Go Milchek. Stand up to Drummond. Fuck Drummond. Least favorite, I'm giving to Bert. Don't trust Bert at all and don't really know what's happening with Bert and Irving's storyline. I think Bert's got something suspicious going on. So least favorite is going to Bert for episode 9. The 10th and final episode of Severance Season 2 is titled Cold Harbor. So let's get into this finale. We start this one out with James Egan. We saw him coming down the stairs at the end of episode 9. Or coming down the elevator, at the end of episode 9. He walks up to his daughter, who in this moment is Heli. He says he doesn't love his daughter anymore, that being Helena, but he does see Keir in Heli. So, Keir Egan, a little bit of weirdness going on there. I don't know what that's all about, but maybe that's something to watch moving forward. Heli is more Egan than Helena. I'm here for it. I don't like Helena, so fuck it. Any Mark realizes that what he goes through, or when he goes through with the plan and saves Gemma, his version will die. Any Mark will die because Audi Mark will have Gemma back, and there'll be really no need for him to go to work anymore. Obviously, he's not going to work at a place that just tortured his wife, who he thought was dead, and all the other stuff that's happened. So any Mark would die, and that'd be it for any Mark. For the 50th time, I'm going to say, these people live shit lives, but dying sucks. So definitely don't want to die. He now is communicating with his Audi. They film videos on a camera, and then when he walk outside, it's Mark because it's the birthing retreat. They have Severance on in there. I'm sure Cobel rigged it up. When he walks outside, it's his Audi. When he walks back in, it's his Innie. It goes wrong quickly when Audi Mark brings up Heli to Any Mark, making a comparison of Heli to Gemma for him. That just makes him realize he's going to lose Heli as well. I mean, he's going to lose everybody. He's going to fucking die. But this conversation was kind of riveting, but then it kind of dragged on a little bit too long in my opinion. But it was pretty interesting to see the Innies and Audis, the Innie and Audi of Mark talk back and forth for the first time ever. Like, they don't know anything about each other, really. So that was cool. I hope we get to see more of that in the future. Cobel talks to Innie Mark after Audi Mark fails at trying to convince him to go through with the plan. Cobel talks to him. The numbers that they work every day in MDR are Gemma. The clusters are her tempers. The building blocks of her mind. Every file that they do is a new consciousness. So I'm not sure how, if they completed this, she would be dead because they're just making new consciousnesses for her, but doesn't she need to be alive to have a consciousness? Maybe a Scientologist, I don't know if it's a Scientologist, scientist can back me up on that. Mark crashes out on Cobel, and then he wakes up on the severed floor because they probably put the Audi back in, and then it's the Innie. You got to go through with the plan. Bad way to leave him, though, because that leaves him susceptible to crashing out again, and it's like I don't know what the logic was there. Flawed logic continues on in this episode. So Mark tells Heli about everything that's going on, and Heli tells Mark. Now this is the thing I want to stick a pin in. Heli tells Mark to go through with the plan and to save Gemma. Remember that sentence. And Mark didn't want to do this. He was thrown into the situation, but he's like, he agreed to it essentially at one point during the conversation with Audi Mark, but then it goes bad. Now he's talking to the love of his life, the person who cares about him the most. Because Mark, all he has is, he doesn't have a family. He has Heli. That's all. Just remember that. Heli gives him the go-ahead and is trying to convince him to do it and save Gemma because they've been looking for Gemma for months. That's the plan, right? No. Anyways, continuing on. Dylan's Audi gave him a mixed response to his resignation request. He says ultimately it's up to the Innie version to decide what he wants to do. He said he needs the money. He can't really walk away, but if the Innie version really doesn't want to be there anymore and he's going to respect his wishes, I understand it. I don't know. It's a tough decision for both sides, especially when you don't know what the other side is going through. Egan is making fun of Milchek for being verbose, a very awkward introduction. Now, this is when Mark completes Cold Harbor. They have like a projection of Egan, or one of the Egans, and is it? Yeah, it's Egan. I think it's Egan. I don't know. It's a weird thing here where the projection's making fun of Milchek for being verbose. Very awkward introduction by Milchek. He's trying to be like a game show host. It doesn't work out well. And then the marching band comes in, which I love the marching band. The marching band being there was hype. I don't know. I enjoyed the marching band coming in for Mark, and then they're all like playing some nice music. Milchek's dancing. It's hype. Helly, knowing the plan now, gets the distraction for Milchek, and then Mark makes a run for it. Dylan comes in clutch with Milchek being in the bathroom. He blocks the door with the vending machine, so Milchek really is stuck in the bathroom until Mark gets his business done, so everything's set up properly. A side plot quest that's happening here is the Mammalians. The leader of the Mammalians is with Drummond. Drummond asks for its life, but it's like a weird goat sacrifice. I'm not sure what this was supposed to be. We don't really understand the context of this. Just another question to answer in a future season. But that's happening at the same time as this. So Mark is right outside the door of that thing happening when he's trying to get to the exports hallway, and Drummond encounters Mark while this is happening outside the elevator door. The mammalian lady is to the rescue with a gun to Drummond's head, so that relationship that Mark and Helly had built with the mammalian lady pays off. Gun to Drummond's head, takes him captive to unlock the elevator shaft for Mark, or the door. I forget if it's a weird thing. So Mark goes down. As soon as he goes to his Audi, he hits the button on the gun, killing Drummond, because when he's in the elevator, he switches back to his Audi and accidentally wakes up and hits the button, shoots Drummond because his finger's on the trigger. So Drummond's dead. R.I.P. Rest in piss. Fuck Drummond, like I said before. So Drummond's dead, and Helly, now back in the office, is trying to inspire the band to stay and help fight against Milchek. It's not really having the greatest results, but they do end up helping a little bit. Mark gets into the room where Gemma is disassembling a crib, and this is another one of her weird consciousnesses, I guess, that they were building. Obviously, if the project is done, it's also weird that she's still doing this shit. But it's a weird situation because the version of her in the room doesn't know that it's Mark until they are out of the room, and then they have a nice reunite session right after they exit the room. Both of them are their Audis. It's been a while. He thought she was dead. She thought he was remarried, etc., etc. They both didn't believe what happened to each other, and now they're back together. The love story we needed. Gemma and Mark are finally back together. Smile on my face. We did it. Love is in the air. Back to the old college days. We'll relive the good life. Everything will be okay. So the band stands up for Helly and Dylan as Mark contemplates whether to go through the exit stairway or not. He has Gemma on the outside. All you need to do is open the door and we're back to love Gemma and Mark once again. But no, Helly appears at the last second. Now let me remind you what I said to remember before. Helly told Mark to go through this plan to save Gemma. So what the fuck is she doing in this hallway, man? Helly is like, oh, I liked Helly's innie. Now I'm like, what is she doing here? She's just screwing it up. And of course, rather than walk out the doorway and basically commit suicide and, go with Gemma and never come back to the office, he turns around and turns towards Helly. And that's where we leave off season 2, cliffhanger, wah, wah. And he chooses Helly over Gemma. Obviously, it's an innie, so he doesn't have any connection to Gemma besides her being Miss Casey. Pretty pissed off at this ending. Still, I'm kind of upset about it. I understand it. You need a season 3. If he just walks away with Gemma, there's not really a season. But I don't know. I didn't like this ending. Felt like we built this whole season to go with Gemma, and then he's just going back with Helly. I guess it opens up dynamics. I'm sure season 3 will be great, but it's like we could have had everything, Mark. Any Mark, dumb bitch. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm tired, man. We can't win. Everyone was wanting Gemma and Mark back, not fucking Helly and Mark. No one cares about this fake office love. Oh, So I was not a fan of this ending. Favorite character this episode goes to Helly. She came in mad clutch for Mark, understood the assignment, why he would need to leave her, even convinced him to do so if necessary. Even though she came back at the end, I'm giving her my favorite. Least favorite, I'm giving to Mark. Went through all that trouble, the most trouble in the world, just to still be with Helly, trapped in the office floor. Like, how are you going to get out of that, bro? I don't know. That pissed me off. Least favorite going to Mark for episode 10. That's a wrap. Severance season 2. Ending pissed me off. Felt like there were higher highs this season, but lower lows. I think the Cobel episode was the worst episode of the show so far, but I can't say I'm not excited for season 3. I'm going to be covering that on the channel in 2027 or 2028 or 2029, whenever it comes out. So stay tuned for Severance coverage. Next video will be Severance tier list, so we'll get some real thoughts in on these people, man. Wow, what an experience. Yeah, this one came late. I'm sorry, it was always on my list. I just had other things pop up that had urgency. So it comes out here, man. Maybe this will be a nice refresher for you guys before we head into season 3. Another cliffhanger on the season off. I feel bad for y'all. I mean, I watched like a month after you guys, and I'm pissed off. We gotta, like, every TV show's got to be 3 years. Ben Stiller's watching fucking Knicks games instead of writing Severance. Pissed me off, bro. Yeah, Severance is a good show though. Like, a lot of people say there aren't good shows on anymore. Severance beat that mold, especially for a streaming service like Apple TV that doesn't have really renowned self-made projects. This is a good start for Apple TV. I think people are subscribing to Apple TV just to see Severance. It's worth the watch. I'm excited for season 3. Just didn't like the ending of this particular season. I don't like when seasons end in cliffhangers, especially when we have to wait 2-3 years for them. But I am excited to see what happens. Now Gemma's in the mix. There's so many questions that can be answered. That's my worry. My friend told me that's what he's worried about, and I completely agree with him. I gotta give him credit. You know who you are. You were right. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I hope they can answer even 75% of them. So I don't think season 3 will be the last season. I think they'll do 4 seasons, and you gotta cut it wraps, bro, because next review I'll be doing for a show is You, and they went on two seasons too long. I think the sweet spot's 4 to 5 seasons if you really have a good product. You got to start answering some of these questions, bro, and we got to be satisfied with the ending. It's a whole thing. So I'm sure Ben Stiller's in the lab, ready to crank this shit out. So I will see you guys for the Severance tier list. Besides that, on the channel, just mentioned, next show we'll be doing is You. Recap and review to that 5th season, final season of You. Crazy stuff there. Movies, we'll have The Hunt for Red October, My Cousin Vinny. And besides that, a weekly NBA or round by round stream is coming. I'm in the works. The guests are being difficult, but we're gonna make it happen. Even though a couple of the games have already happened for round 2. And then besides that, is there any other UFC 315? Hopefully the guests for that will be better. Not better, but like better communicators. I don't know. It's a whole thing of the Dubcast. You can get whatever content you want. So stay tuned for more Severance content. Stay tuned for more television, movie, and sports content. I'll leave you all with that. And as always, be easy, y'all.